Can you hear me? Okay. Unlike these gentlemen, I didn't get that letter that says, you have to sign up, because women were strictly voluntary. And so many people have asked me over the years, why in the world would you go into the military if you don't have to? So I thought I would share with you today why I went into the military. It certainly wasn't the money or the benefits. I had more to do, it had more to do with the prospect of I didn't have grades to go to college or the money. I wanted to do something besides stay at home in Boston. I had a good job at Sears and Roebuck working in catalog sales, but I wanted more. This was back in 1967, the height of the Vietnam War, and somehow I felt I could make a difference. I was exposed to military at an early age. My father was a career man, and both brothers served as well as my sister-in-law. We had lots of patriotism and God and country in my family, and I wanted to do something more than what I was doing. I finally got up the nerve to see a recruiter, so I wandered into the Army recruiting officer. The recruiter was quite charming and very handsome. He told me I would fit very nicely in a WAC uniform. He took me to lunch and we discussed the details, and after 2 margaritas, he signed me up. And please remember, this was 1967. After lots of medical training and written exams, I was off to basic training at Fort McClellan, Alabama. That was back in the days when women had their own branch of service. That no longer exists today because both men and women served together. Basic training was an experience we never forget. Drill sergeants being homesick, marching in temperatures of 90 and 100 degrees. We had no air conditioning. We all needed to be mentally tough and endure the next 10 weeks. But with lots of determination, what seemed to be an eternity, I graduated from basic training. My first assignment was Fort Lewis, Washington, and I worked in personnel and finance. My job was to assign new jobs to soldiers who were training for Vietnam and make sure everybody was paid. It was a very large Army training center for the men, and most were being assigned to Vietnam. It was a real eye-opener for me, but I did grow up a lot in that year. My second assignment was Europe, Belgium. It was SHAPE headquarters, better known as SHAPE. I was working in an international office, and I loved my team. I loved my work, and I loved being part of this amazing family. I had an experience living in a beautiful country and many experiences with people from all over the world in different backgrounds. The funny thing was, I was from Boston, and I had a very heavy accent at the time. So when I would speak, even the internationals knew where I came from. This was an assignment of a lifetime. I worked in an office with all different nationalities. They were Germans, Italians, British, Turks, Dutch. These people were very special friends, and they made me very, very welcome. During my tour in Belgium, I was able to travel all over Europe. To name a few places was Great Britain, Paris, Germany, Italy. Joining the Army gave me an experience with people from all parts of the country and the world. More than anything else, I love the person I have become because of the Army. I just want to thank everybody, and I think I'm in greatness here, and thank you very much.
I did it on the computer, that way none of you can see how long I'll actually be talking. My name is David Kluver. Just so happened to be one of Uncle Sam's misguided children, also known as the United States Marine Corps. When I was a senior in high school, I wanted to skate. I didn't want to take any really hard classes. I tried to, I was about halfway through my first semester, and I'm like, why am I taking physics? Why am I taking trigonometry? I've already gotten into school. What's the point? And I look at my mom, and she goes, no, you're gonna finish these math classes. She was a big math person and love the logics and things like that. And so I say to her, you know, if you can name one job that I'm going to need trigonometry for, I'll stay in it. She couldn't name a job. So after receiving a B- in trigonometry after my first semester, I dropped out of it and you know, just decided to take a study hall. So I had an extra study hall, which in turn I actually worked for one of my track coaches, which I hardly ever showed up for. Sorry, but anywho, so 2008 hits. I joined the Marine Corps. I had graduated from college per my parents' wishes, because I had actually tried to sign up on September 11th, 2001. I tried to join the Marine Corps. Came home, slid the piece of paper to my mom. I said, hey, I need you to sign this. And she says, why? I said, oh, so I can join the Marine Corps. She goes, I ain't signing that. I'm like, well, it doesn't really matter. I turned 18 in 2 months. I'm going anyways. So made a deal with them that, hey, they would help me pay for school if I decided that I wasn't going to join the Marine Corps. I ruined Christmas Eve in 2007 by coming home. My mom says, what internships are you doing this coming semester? Oh, I signed up for the Marine Corps. I leave in June. And my dad looks at me and just still with disgust when he hears that I ruined Christmas Eve, because all my mom did was ball. But fast forward, I get done with all my training, and so in 2008, I hit my fleet. As we call it in the Marine Corps, we call it hitting the fleet. And I'm a boot, and which also means a new guy. And I check in, and here's my platoon commander looking at me going, oh, so you have a college education? Yes, sir. Although there was a guy that did ask me if I could type, and my platoon sergeant said, hell no, he can't. You know, I think every first sergeant wants a secretary, I swear to God. So, so all of a sudden our platoon commander says, well, I'm going to put you as the fire direction center, which in the mortars is I do all the math and calculations to make sure that I can look at maps and make sure rounds get down range and go where they're supposed to. Sure enough, first thing I'm doing is trigonometry and geometry. Guess lesson learned, never go against mom, it'll just come back to bite you in the butt. So we did our workup for the 2010. So I was part of the 2010 deployment of Marja. Basically that was the last Taliban stronghold in Afghanistan. What it was if you can think of it as the world's opium or heroin operation, and take that as 100%, 90% of that comes from Afghanistan. Out of that 95% of that came from Marja, Afghanistan. So basically, the way the Taliban were doing all their funding was by raising opium and selling it as heroin around the world. So because of that, we were sent in there to destroy their funding and everything. So we're sitting outside this, we're sitting outside the city digging in, and I get all these care packages from Lois Wood. And they're addressed to me. I have no idea who this lady is, but they're addressed to me, and I open them up, and come to find out they're a bunch of cakes, and with frosting and everything like that. So all you ladies in here that was part of that, you guys made me the most popular Marine in the border platoon. So, because here we are in the middle of the desert, about 8 clicks out of the city, and or 8 kilometers, I should say, and out of the city, and we get cake. We're no longer eating these things out of bags, these MREs, and all this military chow. So, you guys really did boost our morale. So, thank you very much for that. We spent the next 9 months. Basically, we shot over 200 mortars, did countless patrols, and had a lot of lessons where you really learn that God's divine intervention really is there. Sure enough, like all of a sudden we're gearing up. We get home, and we're gearing up for our second deployment, and we're sitting back there, and we're all of a sudden we find out that our rules of engagement have changed. No longer are they going to allow mortar systems to be fired off. So a lot of us are sitting there looking at each other going, what are we going to do now? This is what we do. We fire mortars. And so they're going to put us as infantry guys. All we're going to be doing is just doing patrols, doing what we kind of did on the first deployment, but without the mortar side of it. So all of a sudden our platoon sergeant looks at me or looks at all of us and he goes, "Who wants to be a dog handler?" Take a pet on deployment? Yes. I volunteered, and sure enough, all of a sudden, he looks at me and goes, "Well, we're gonna have to take your squad away." I'm like, "That's fine. I'm gonna be put in my buddy's squad anyway. That's fine." I knew exactly where he was gonna put me, so I was fine with it. And so they sent us to dog handling school in South Carolina. And so, quickly within about the first hours of this school, we quickly learned that this is not a pet. So that notion went way away. All of a sudden, we're doing the training and they're showing us what the dogs can actually do or what their job is. And so we're sitting back and plugging away and trying to learn all this, all these different moves and trying to get used to commanding the dog, and it was a very eye-opening experience. The instructors there, they're basically, their job, so in order for a dog to even make it so that it can be a bomb dog, it's got to hit. So in Afghanistan, you've heard a lot of the IEDs in Iraq, in Afghanistan, or in Iraq at least, where they use unexploded ordnances, like 155 shells, which are the big artillery shells, and unused mortars and things like that. Not the case in Afghanistan. They would actually use fertilizer. So they would use a lot of ammonium nitrate as well as potassium chloride to make the bombs. Well, luckily, here in the United States, we have man's best friend who is a hunting dog anyways. So we utilize that in the Marine Corps. And actually, these dogs, in order to be certified, they take a dip can full of this fertilizer, bury it a foot down, and if the dog lays down by it, which is their way of alerting that there's odor there, or that there's a bomb there, they pass, and they're able to go on and be bomb dogs. So we learn how to utilize that, so that way when those dogs are going out, they can alert us and tell us, "Oh, hey, there's a bomb right there." We back off, call EOD, explosive ordnance detail. I have a wife over here who told me to get rid of all the acronyms last night. So, and then they told me they would get rid of the IEDs or the roadside bombs for us. In the school, it was very interesting how you'd sit there and everybody always says, and every veteran in here has heard, you always rely back on your training. You always go back on your training. And so during the schooling, we went back on our training. We'd find a door, there was different mock-ups of houses, and we'd line up on it and get ready to breach the room, and then all of a sudden the instructor would be like, "Congratulations, you're dead." I'm like, "What do you mean I'm dead? Like, I just got here." And then all of a sudden, "Look at your dog. There he was, laying down right on an IED that I had just walked over." So, I mean, it was one of those things where it was an eye-opening experience, because even when then all of a sudden you were walking into the next scenario, you're like, "All right, I'm gonna get this. Just watch the dog, watch the dog." And we would go into a room, and next thing you know, the dog's covering. I'm like, "Hey, found the IED," and then all of a sudden I'd back up enough. He's like, "Nope, you're dead again. C4 right behind me." And then, so it's like, you basically had to figure out a way of balancing the Marine as well as the dog handler. But then it even got even more interesting, because then as the schooling went on, you really had to figure out what your role was as a dog handler and what the dog's role was. The dog's role was to find the IEDs, to find the bombs. My role was I had to all of a sudden think like the Taliban. I had to think like that guy who's going to set up the IEDs, because here I am, I'm the point man for the patrol. I'm basically leading 13 to 18 Marines behind me and one corpsman, so I've got to have the Navy in there too. We're leading these guys into an area. I got to figure out, okay, how would I blow us up? How would I destroy my unit? And then send the dog that way to make sure that it was clear. This is a little bit of a dangerous job. This is actually my second dog. My first one I trained with, if you would have met him, he was about a 94-pound Labrador who was big hunk of metal. Like he loved his job. I mean, we would get home, we would get back from patrols, and he'd be raring to go. 150-degree heat, and black lab. He was set. He was always jacked, ready to roll. But he did save myself and 2 other Marines. So, but total. My dogs and I, we found 7 IEDs overseas. So, you know, however many Marines we probably saved by doing that. But you really learn that the dogs are the heroes in the situations. You know, like they do the hardest job for us. But you don't actually at first, when you first get the job, you don't realize how attached you're going to be to it until all of a sudden then you really see it and you really kind of come to grips that I'm as close to this dog that I am another Marine. In fact, she's kind of more of a Marine than I am because she has actually a tattoo in her ear and I have none. So I'm maybe a Marine in my whole unit with a tattoo. But she so in 2014 the Marine Corps calls me up and says, "Hey, do you want to adopt your dog?" And I said, "Absolutely." You know, like and she goes, "Okay, I'm gonna fax you or send you over the paperwork." So she sends me over the paperwork. I get it done in a half hour, send it right back to her. She goes, "Okay, so when do you want to pick it up?" "Tomorrow." "I'm sorry, it has to go through a final physical and everything like that. So like, when can you pick it up?" I'm like, "How about you just tell me when I can pick it up?" "Monday." "Perfect." So I come and get her, and so I had to give her back in 2011. So the next time I saw her was 2014. She had done 3 more deployments after me. She's done a total of 5 deployments to Afghanistan. But so I lined her up, so like the trainer looks at me and goes, "You want to run her?" He hands me a whistle and everything. I'm like, "Absolutely, let's do this." He goes, "All right, I hit out some, I hit some odor over by that car, so if you can get her to go by it, we're not going to do a test for you or anything like that. I'm going to give you a day off." I'm like, "Thanks, I haven't done this in 3 years." So I send her out, and she no more gets 20 feet in front of me, turns around, and jumps into my arms. And it's almost like that's when she knew that I was her handler. So, I am extremely humbled to be in this room right now. It's one of those things where, the best story that I actually have that I've heard is like, if you give 5 acres of land to every branch in the service, the Marines will destroy everything make sure it's unlivable for 10 years. The Army will set up a perimeter and defend it. The Navy will paint it. And the Air Force, in their intelligence, will actually lease it out for 5 years and try to gain a profit. And because it's amazing though, like what we do as military members, like we don't get to choose our war, we don't get to choose our deployment, and half these guys didn't even get to choose going in. And it's just one of those things where, it's amazing how we get to work together. And you actually see that when you're actually overseas. My first deployment was one of the ones where, we were the ones that were digging in and invading the city. But when somebody would get wounded and we had to get out of casualty, Air Force was coming in with their birds and with the Army's medics or the Army's flight nurses. And our corpsmen were the ones that were working on it, on the Marine. And it's amazing how these guys, like our lieutenant, like he was a really good lieutenant. I know a lot of people hate on lieutenants, but like ours was locked on. And when we were trying to pop smoke for WIA or a wounded Marine, and signal where we wanted the bird to come in at, he threw it out, and all of a sudden goes, I won't say exactly what he said, but he goes, "I threw it in the wrong spot. It was right by a hay bale." So this Air Force pilot came down and saw it at the last minute and swooped down. Best flying that we've ever seen. But like once we got the Marine on the bird and the bird was flying away, we were sitting back going, "This is why we are the best military in the world. Because we can do all this, we can work together in these situations." And you somewhat forget about all the crap that you give each other when you're here over or back here in the United States. But like I'm very humbled to be here, and I want to thank you all for your service as well, because without you guys, mine probably wouldn't have been as good, because you guys had to lay the groundwork. You guys had to lay the groundwork into leaving the military better than what you found it, and I just hope that I did the same.
Oh,
Thank you
amen.
very much.